All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. My name is Law Nation, LAW Nation. Let's talk about this draft situation. Premium draft picks are always good, right? Matter of fact, they're great, like Tony the Tiger would say. All right. So when you're picking within the top 10, you have high expectations, right? You're looking at the situation saying that, okay, I got a shoe in on a guy that should be a starter for me year one, year two, and beyond. Now, a lot of things don't translate like that. We wish that we can look at the draft and have that magic ball to say, okay, this will be the guy that's going to go to the Hall of Fame. But it does not work that way. We still have to evaluate, elevate players. They have to fit the system. Just because he's drafted in the first round or just because he drafted with the top picks or what have you does not mean that this guy is going to be a Hall of Fame or going to make plays. And across the board, yes, we can look at it and say, yeah, you can either draft BPA or team needs, especially when you're within the top 10. Now, I'm more of the aspect of thinking, hey, draft BPA, draft best player available on the board. Now, Cowboys do, at times, we do get cute when we are drafting early in the rounds, meaning that in the second and in the third round, you still have the earlier sweet spot. Then we say, okay, how can we reach to get a guy that have a first round grade in the second? Nah, they don't need to be cute because that's what we did with Jalen, right? They said, okay, we did good in the first round. Let's see if we can get a guy that we can, who have first round talent. Let's draft him early, redshirt him, and then hopefully we'll gamble a little bit and see if this guy can play to first round caliber down the line. And we did it a little bit with Randy Gregory. So that's probably be the philosophy of the Cowboys. They will and deal. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. We are just now seeing the fruits of the labor with Randy Gregory, right? Hopefully he can stay on track and play for this team for multiple more years. Now, we look at this situation with Sewell. He's out there. And we look at the situation with the defensive side of the ball. They are out there. Now, I can tell you this. I'm more team defense, but I'm still realism is always around me, right? Realism would be that, yes, our offensive line is porous. Yes, we have 5 guys on this offensive line that we can look at and say, yeah, it's cool and all, but where we really need help at is finding a Tyron Smith replacement, and we don't know what the hell La'el Collins is going to do for us in 2021. Let's go get Sewell. Now, I want to caution people for all of that because in the same breath, you can have multiple good draft picks and still be a horrible team. Let me repeat, you can have multiple good draft picks and still be a horrible team. You need to establish a philosophy. And I know it's going to go over a lot of people's head, but if you look at the Jets, they had Mekhi Becton, and I'm not trying to sully or denigrate Mekhi because he just so happened to fall on a horrible team. But previously, a couple of years before that, they got their quarterback that they really wanted, right? Everybody was saying that Sam, he's going to be the next great thing since sliced bread. And they can't find a win over there. They had multiple situations on the defensive side as well. Quentin Williams, Leonard Williams, and they had a situation with a Jamal Adams. They had another cornerback, I forgot his name. They will and deal a little bit, but it didn't work out for them. It didn't work out for other teams as well that's picking earlier in the draft. All I'm saying is that we have to find a way, a solution to pick up a player that can work well with us. Now, I do know that the 5,000-pound gorilla would be Dak Prescott. Do you sign and trade? Do you figure it out and just sign him long term, and then you figure out how to build around him? Had multiple people calling in to the show, the other show that I did the other day, saying that, hey, even with Dak Prescott, it was a reach for the Joneses because they didn't see him. They didn't know who he was. It took injuries for him to become the starter. Tony Romo, it was a reach because they didn't know him. Not reach in a bad sense, but a reach in, oh, they got lucky. Evaluating quarterbacks not been the cup of tea for the Joneses. One can argue, like the caller said, Troy Aikman was a great pick for the Cowboys. But was that more so to do with Jimmy Johnson? or was that Jerry Jones? And I thought and I pondered and I sat there and said to myself, more so to do with Jimmy Johnson. He always had his eye for Troy Aikman, but there have been many of years, it's been over 30 years ago. So we got to look at everything, Cowboy Nation, and say, okay, will the Joneses do the right thing by Dak Prescott, or will they go out there and draft the right person? Because the last time we heard anything about the Joneses drafting a quarterback, it was Paxton Lynch. It was Johnny Manziel. They had a strong love affair for the Ford kid. I forgot his first name, but I don't think that he's in the NFL. Or there's another guy that they said he even looked like Tony Romo. And I think that he was Hackenberg or something like that. He was drafted by another team, and a whole bunch of crazy things happened. So we got to sit back and say to ourselves, man, better be careful with the pick. Oh, and in other news as well, I got to talk about my dog, number 19, Amari Cooper. He's on pace, and I know it does not translate to wins or what have you, and I jump back to draft, but he's on pace to having 100 receptions, 1,000 yards or what have you, with over 4 quarterbacks throwing him a ball, I believe. I think it's right at 4, but I like to say over 4. So there's the situation. Don't sleep on Amari Cooper and stop selling and denigrating this kid. You can only imagine if Dak Prescott was still here throwing him the rock, those numbers would have been crazy. And that would trickle into wins. I think that this team would have got on a hot streak and they would have started winning games, especially how the defense is coming along. Especially, it'll put more pressure on the opposing teams. More and more pressure on them because we will be averaging 30 points or more. That's just the bottom line. Now, back to football as it relates to the draft, the premium situation. Now, y'all know I love DBs, cornerbacks, and all of those things, right? Now, more in line of, going out there and willing and dealing for a safety. But you got a Javon Hollins, you got the Trayvon kid from TCU, you also have the Richard kid from Georgia. You got a lot of good safeties out there, but I'm still with the mindset, hey, elevate Donovan Wilson, go out there and pick a Justin Simmons up, rule and deal. But as far as the cornerbacks, the DBs on the outside or what have you, I like Patrick Surtain. Now, his quickness is not all the way there. He got some good speed, but the quickness is not all the way there. And if Caleb Farley were to play this year, maybe you would be able to see the separation between those two. But do not sleep on Samuels. Do not sleep on Samuels. He may be a guy that will fit well in this system, in this team. Now, before I run up out of here, I just have to say this, Cowboy Nation. Let's be mindful that everybody got to go through growing pains, even the rookies. That's not a news flash. That's just a reality. That they're going to have to learn the system and pick this thing up and figure out how to play on the National Football League or in the National Football League. Just like Diggs. It took him a minute, right? Everybody was like, he's trash. He getting burned by this guy. He's giving up this touchdown. But they saw some effort and they saw some growth within that kid. Woo-wee. So whoever we get in the draft, there's some dogs out there. We got premium grades. We're going to be picking in the top in every round. It's just up to the Joneses to will and deal and get this thing going in the right and proper way. It can flat out happen, Cowboy Nation. All I'm saying is that we just have to be mindful that even premium picks takes time. And just because you got them doesn't mean that you're going to win. Newsflash, the Jets, for example. Mekhi Becton, Quentin Williams, and beyond, right? So, and the other teams, not just poking at the Jets or what have you, but there's other teams that went and got, high graded premium players, and it's not translating to wins. All right, so with all of that being said, I got some more things that I would like to touch on, but I got to roll. I got to bounce like a basketball up out of here. But before I go, y'all make sure y'all smash that like button, share this content, let friends, neighbor, foes know where to go when they want to tune in to Cowboy Sports Talk and beyond. And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. Let's go, Cowboy Nation. We out.